Oh, hello there. Hi. Welcome to How To in 48 Hours with me, Mike Vaughn. And it's not like how to rob a bank or how to do something wonderful like make a cure for COVID. It's how to make a short film in 48 hours. And so we're going to talk about that. How do you do that? You know, when I was a kid, back in the Stone Age, when I would make a film with a camera like this, a Super 8, we'd, have to scrap the money together to buy the cartridge that only had about 5 minutes. And then to get the film back took more than a week. And then after that, we had to cut the film in a linear fashion. And not like you guys today that get all this great technology. You can make and shoot and cut a film on your phone. Anyway, so we're going to talk today about how do you make a film for the 48-hour film challenge. Now, I've had a lot of fun as the director of education supervising interns and making about 5 of these. So about half the length that the BCM 48-hour film challenge has been going on, I've been having a fun time making this. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about how do you actually do this? How do you write a film on Friday night based on these great 3 secret ingredients that you'll get that you're going to shoot the following Saturday, and then on Saturday night get a great rest because you're going to be up bright and early Sunday after you go to church and have your breakfast, whatever. Then you start editing your film, and you got to turn your film in Sunday in the evening. So you got to give yourself enough time to write, shoot, and cut. But don't panic, because I've been working on some really great resources which are also available on our website that obviously you know about. And that's the way to register, and that's the way to participate in this wonderful 48-hour film challenge, COVID edition, and I think you're going to have a great time. So I want to unpack this in 4 steps. A general idea about what it means and why it's fun and what you can learn from it. And then we'll talk about how do you actually write the film by yourself or with a group of people on Friday night. How do you then have good leadership and a safe, fun, effective set on Saturday? And then how do you intelligently and artistically cut your film with the music, with your sound effects, with your credits, nice transitions, and then get the right type of export so then you can send it off and we can enjoy the fruits of your labor on that Sunday night as we celebrate each other as filmmakers working in this very strange time and with a sense of urgency. So the first thing I just want to address is that the idea of making a film in 48 hours isn't really a Herculean type of, and that's not even a word, I just made that up, certainly the way I pronounced it, effort. But what it is it allows you to think creatively about writing something that you can actually shoot the next day. You may be by yourself, it may be you and your brother or roommate, maybe you've got a small social COVID pod that you can keep a social distance from and make a film. But the big thing about this is thinking about narrative, leadership, artistic merit, and also a sense of fun in becoming a better filmmaker. And because we're all among friends, nobody's going to say, oh, what a weird movie, what a strange movie, what an awkward movie. No, they're going to celebrate you because you've made a film in 48 hours. And so let's look into the 3 ways that we can talk about writing, shooting, and cutting the film. So one of the things that makes a 48-hour film challenge really exciting is that they always have these 3 secret ingredients that you've got to put in your film, and everybody does it. And this isn't so much so that you don't make your movie ahead of time, but that it actually should inspire impromptu and how you would actually craft your narrative. And of course, you can make any kind of film you want. You can make an abstract, expressionistic film. You can make a comedy, a horror, a sci-fi, a romantic comedy. You can make a documentary. You could shoot interesting things around your neighborhood and use a voiceover narrative. So you can make this movie by yourself with your phone in whatever editing system you have. And sometimes, even on some phones, you can edit directly on the phone. So one of the things that I find to be really helpful when collaborating, or even if you're writing on your own, is you take the 3 secret ingredients and you write them down. Either you can write them down, well, here's the phrase, here's the object, and here's the theme. But sometimes it's fun to write it this way, like landscape, because you kind of get a bit more room in each space to write this out. So a few years ago, the phrase was, don't go down the rabbit hole. Well, so what did that mean to us? Well, we talked about Alice in Wonderland. We talked about the metaphor of getting distracted and getting carried away from what you're really supposed to do. The image was a baby. And it was like, wow, well, what does a baby mean? Promise, new life, hope, miracle, things like that. And then the theme was, because it was the anniversary of the Summer of Love, the theme was flower power. So what does that mean? What did it mean to the people of that time? What does that mean to the generation of teenagers that were making the film with us then, right? So ideas and phrases that just come to mind, stream of consciousness, bullet points, and then what also really helps, because the motion picture is really about action, is to write active verbs that are associated with each ingredient, right? And then adjectives. So that really helps because that might inspire you. So in our area, we came up with, well, what would happen if people got distracted and went down the rabbit hole and distracted from their primary focus? The flower power, well, the boy in the movie had some prop flowers that he didn't know had been laced with something, so when people smelled the flowers, they hallucinated. And then one girl, because we didn't have access to a baby, but one girl thought a bag of Doritos was her baby. So she looks at the bag of Doritos and we cut to a little baby laughing. And that was her hallucination. Anyway, so you see how the 3 secret ingredients should inspire you to write rather than think, oh, and then you come up with some kind of narrative and then try to jam in or just put a sticker of the ingredients in your movie. Every time they do that, it's like, oh, you've written some other thing and then you were obligated to put the 3 secret ingredients in and you've done it. And with all respect to some filmmakers, it really didn't come from a place. So think about, what do the 3 secret ingredients mean to you personally? What does it mean to the people you're writing with? That's really important. So what we found to be fun is back in the day when people got together, we would go and sit at a cafe that was open later in the evening, and we would have some fries and a pitcher of root beer or something, and all write ideas out. Now, you may be doing this with your friends over a remote type of way, which is fine. So there should be a scribe. You can also do a shared doc where you share it with everybody, give them editorial privileges, and they can write in and things like that. So there's a sense of community and equity where people are participating in creating the narrative. And sometimes people say, well, let's come up with the problem, or let's come up with the inciting incident, or let's come up with a particular character. And yeah, but also think about how a story might flow. Now, you have to remember, in a short film, you do not have the time liberty that you do in a longer short film, like that's 20 minutes or half hour, and certainly not if you've written screenplays where people have a lot of time to set up the inciting incident and have breathing room for this. You're going to be working on a film that's under 10 minutes, and I strongly recommend that you write something and shoot something and cut something that runs about 5 minutes or 6 minutes at max. It's a lot more fun, it's a lot more accessible, you have a lot more authority over making your film, and it's a lot easier to cut, obviously. But in the 6-minute film, if you were to think about a 3-act structure, well, in a 90-minute film, the first act is about 30 minutes, the second act is about an hour, the third act is about 30 minutes. So if you were to think about the beginning part of a 6-minute film, well, you got to have that inciting incident happen pretty easy. And one of the things that's really important with short films is a singular problem. You can't have multiple problems and other things going on with that. A singular problem and a primary singular hero or heroine or whatever is your primary character, because it doesn't mean that you can't have really great supporting parts or allies or a nemesis and things like that, but you really need to have a strong central character, get your inciting incident and build your world early on and get off to the races right away within about 2 minutes. So then you can really build up through the next 4 or 5 minutes what's really going on with happening, and you can take another couple of minutes to get to what's called a plot point or a turning point, so that your main battle is really happening within the middle 3 minutes, and then you've got your third act is just a couple of minutes, and then you've got a nice little resolution. So just some notes that we were thinking about. When you're thinking about writing, what's really critical is you've got to write the movie that you can actually shoot. And sometimes when people are very creative and they get a little manic, well, I can get a green sheet and make a green screen, and then I can make a cardboard thing and a spaceship, and I can get my brother to play the monster. Well, you know, you got to think about your crew and your cast. Hopefully you've got everybody locked in early on. Hopefully now as you're watching this, certainly Friday night, you can't be calling people at 10 o'clock at night and say, hey, would your 5-year-old kid be in the movie, or your baby, or can I borrow your car, or can I shoot in your shop? It's a little late in the game to do that. So you got to really think about what you can really shoot the next day. What's accessible to you? Here's the other thing, locations. Really important not to say, oh, you know, we could shoot at Lake Merritt, and then we could shoot in San Francisco, and then we could shoot in the Tilden Park. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. You've got to get in traffic or in BART or the bus to deal with all that? Nah, you know what? Keep the locations to a minimum. And here's the thing. 3 locations is great for a short film, right? And, you know, you're somewhere in your apartment, the park, and then maybe somewhere else. There's 2 things about location that's really important: light and sound. If right now we're in a quiet room and it's kind of quiet outside on Martin Luther King, but if we were trying to shoot a dialogue scene at Center and Shattuck during the day, well, we'd be up the creek. Or if we were trying to shoot dialogue down at the marina, you wouldn't have it. The other thing is that where you're shooting, think about how does light fall in that space at particular times. So hopefully you're familiar. If you're shooting in your apartment or your house, think about, well, where's the southern and western exposure, and how does light fall at a particular time? You may want to shoot in your living room, but sometimes a living room just gets blasted, and other times, if that's on the north side of the house, then you may not have enough light at the time. So certainly, as you're thinking about that, and here we've got these LED lights, and if you don't have access to lamps or other things, then you've got to be really creative in your writing about what you're shooting and what do you think that would work in, because you're doing some pre-production stuff even as you're writing. Okay, time. Time is important in writing because you've got shooting time of how long will it take you to shoot something, and screen time of how long will that appear and run in the motion picture. So that avoid writing for this kind of thing complicated scenes that would include a complex stunt or a montage of somebody riding their bike all around town or working out in different things of running and lifting weights and swimming. You know, you're going to be all day with somebody in the pool and lifting weights and things like that. Write stories that have singular scenes, and they can be kind of long, but what you don't want to do is paint yourself into a corner where you've got to realize, oh, I've got the guy driving around town and they got to mount the camera somewhere, or he's on BART or that kind of things. For this thing, write what you can shoot. Critical. Here's another thing that's really important, that even though you're rushing to get the shots, you should have a point of view as a filmmaker. Critical. Artistically, with your authority as the director. And that means that how you stage a scene, how you collaborate with the photographer to photograph it, you should have an artistic viewpoint and an attitude toward your characters and what's happening. What you don't want to do is just shoot the thing in a wide shot and then maybe get a little close-up and then shoot the guy leaving the room. And, well, that's rather perfunctory and that's rather kind of boring. What you really want to do is see, can you articulate some dynamism and some artistic vision in your film with what you're doing. Another reason to A, keep it short, and B, keep it simple. Because the shorter your script and the more simple the narrative, the more liberty you will have in thinking about, I wonder what's a really great way for me to shoot this. Is it kind of objective, that I'm looking at the scene objectively, or am I seeing something from the character's point of view, which would be subjective? And am I panicking? Am I in love? Am I fantasizing? Am I freaking out? Am I feeling nervous? Whatever it is, you want to do with that camera and your sound and your cutting what you want the audience to feel. But the number one thing that you've got to think about always, not just in days of COVID, is safety. You've got to have a safe set. Physically safe, emotionally safe, and also just safe for people to feel creative. Critical. People like a strong leader, but nobody likes a bossy boss and feels like I'm here helping you make your movie. No, the deal with this kind of thing, it's why you register as a team, is it's collective, but like a lot of teams, you have a coach or you have a captain that's going to steer the ship and make sure that everybody has a sense of equity and a sense of enjoyment. So you want to think about when you're writing, how comfortable are people? People might not be comfortable doing a combat scene or getting in very close proximity. And also you want to make sure that you have access to a clean bathroom and hand washing, and that you also bring with you hand sanitizer. And of course, people should be wearing masks. And in this day and age, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people made films that were kind of like Omega Man type thing, or people distanced from each other wearing the mask in the movie, which of course is very appropriate. Now, next, we're going to talk about how do you actually shoot the darn thing, okay? So how do you actually shoot this movie that you've written the night before? Well, hopefully you've had a good night's sleep and a really healthy, nice breakfast. And you have already assigned people that are going to help you, even if it's 2 or 3, some type of job. And you've already thought about and gotten permission for location and how you're going to do the logistics. So here are some things that we're going to talk about really quickly, just to kind of think about. Some of it might be like, well, that's obvious. Sometimes you get so excited about something that people forget an obvious thing. I've actually been on sets where people are really excited and they forgot a memory card. I've worked on things where people forgot the microphone at the house, and then they had to resort to the on-camera mic with a DSLR. And we're human, we make these mistakes, but if you make a checklist the night before of crew, what the responsibilities are, what time they're coming, and the equipment of what you're bringing, including what you're borrowing, so you have an inventory of what everything is and where it goes when you're done. Okay, in the morning when you get your crew together, you want to have about 90 minutes, and I kid you not, and I know everybody's really eager to start shooting the film, but if you do the pre-production in that morning on what you're going to do that day, you will have less stress, you will be more creative, and you'll be more efficient in making your film. So in that pre-production time, how do you use it? Well, making a shot list, and that is the order in which you're going to shoot the film, and that's really important because if you've got a couple of scenes at the house and they're interspersed throughout the film, you want to shoot all the scenes in the house at one time and then go do things that are in proximity. Now, sometimes light may affect the order of operations in how you're going to shoot it, but that's critical. So another thing that's really important is to assign duties. Now, you may be doing this on your own, and there's an intern at Berkeley Community Media during COVID who's made 2 short films by himself with the phone resting somewhere and put it on a tripod, and he made this great thing, even in one film, play 2 different characters. It's a delicious film, it's great. But nonetheless, if you can have like 4 people that are working with you on the crew that, and sometimes actors have to hold a microphone or do other things, but if you can have the actors not necessarily be part of the crew, that's preferable. Director of photography, boom operator who's also the sound person, and then a producer who works also as a first AD, making sure that that shot list is respected, and that if you say, I'm going to spend 20 minutes on this kitchen scene, that you don't end up spending 40 minutes and you get yourself in a hole as the night goes on. Also, you're going to have to feed people. You have to. You have an obligation to feed people and make sure they have access to a bathroom and hand washing, and also about 3 quarts of water per person for that full day. And one of the things that's really important in feeding people, you can't just have a big vat of stew or mac and cheese and chips and salsa. No. You've got to ask people on the Friday, do you have any food allergies? Do you have anything that you're restricted? Vegan diet, gluten-free, whatever it is. And so when you order their food and you have it delivered or somebody goes picks it up, that is handed to the person in a bag individually, their sandwich, a little bag of chips, and their bottle of water, their can of Coke, or whatever it is. Critical, okay? So that you move right along. Also in that morning, if you can make something like a rough storyboard, and that's where you start thinking about, how can I make this artistic? How can I make this expressionistic? How can I really make this scene with the camera resonate with what's happening emotionally? Are you supposed to be terrified? Are you supposed to be turned on? Are you supposed to be curious? Are you supposed to be finding it to be beautiful? Are you supposed to be seduced? Use the camera as the emotional gateway to what you want your audience to feel. It's really important. Here's the other thing. A good productive set is a happy and healthy set. And the leadership is really important. So that's also what I was saying earlier, that people want to feel that they're valued, that their contributions are needed, and you don't want to make people feel like, oh, I'm working on Jimmy's film, great. Oh, he's getting a sandwich for me. No, you want people to say, we're making this film together, because it's a team. Nonetheless, the producer really, first AD, supports the director, so the director has the freedom to do creatively with the director of photography about working with the actors and the lighting and the framing, and that food person really makes sure that there's enough nutrition and energy and people are fed, right? And you don't want to take too long for lunch. 20, 25 minutes is plenty. People take a break, sit down, relax, put their feet up, and then get back to it. You don't want your lunch break to turn into 30, 40, 50 minutes. Say, oh, well, we've got until 7. No, you want to plan for anything that contingency that could go wrong, but you want to have a safe and fun filmmaking experience. And so you're not panicking at the end of the night about getting shots or feeling regret. And you don't want to do too much coverage of a scene. Well, let me shoot from this angle and that angle, or let me get that actor here to do the 3rd and 4th and 5th take. No, because you'll be there and you won't get your movie made. So you need to be disciplined, you have a sense of urgency, a sense of improvisational guerrilla filmmaking. And if you get into that vibe and into that rhythm, it's an extremely fun event. And I think that you are going to make a wonderful film. You write something that you can shoot, have a lot of fun shooting it, be safe, have fun, take artistic risks, and make sure that you are grateful to all the people that are there. You say thank you to everybody that's helped you. One thing that's critical to do at the point of shooting is you have the producer make sure that they have the spelling of the name that crew member or actor wants in the movie. And if somebody let you shoot in their bakery or a little shop for a bit, you say special thanks to the donut place and Jimmy the manager. You see what I mean? You put that in your credits. Okay, so thanks a lot. And now next, we're going to talk about how do you cut this thing. So you wrote a film on Friday night with yourself or your few friends, and then on Saturday, after your breakfast, you all got together, and for 7 or 10 or 12 hours, you went and you shot the film. And hopefully you had a great, safe shoot, you learned something, and you got all your shots. You did what's called in the industry, you made your day. And that's wonderful. To make your day and get all the shots on your shot list and feel proud and excited about that is really wonderful. Some people on Saturday night export all their footage into a folder on their external, and they sometimes, depending on how tired you are, you may just scan through it and look at it, and hopefully you're not going, hopefully you're going, wow, that's actually great. And then, now you're going to go to bed, get a really good Saturday night's sleep. And then on Sunday, you're going to need to cut it. Now here's another reason why you need to write a shorter film. And even though your film can be under 10 minutes, you really do want to write a 5 or 6 minute film, because you want to give yourself, and this is about the average time, whether you're just starting out or whether you've been doing this for decades like me, in this kind of film, it's about an hour per minute for cutting. Okay? So that means if your film is 6 minutes long, you need to give yourself at least 6 hours of real work. Now, it's a real dedication that it takes, right? And there's so many different editing systems that you have access to, right? Keep in mind reverse engineering of when the film is due. And so from your export to your upload, you've got to remember that it could take, depending on your internet speed, like 30 minutes, hopefully not that long, to upload to the BCM 48-Hour Film Challenge website. So you've got to not be working up to the last minute. You want to finish an hour before the film is to be submitted so that you can really get it through, okay? When you import your footage, and I'm sure a lot of you have got experience making films and editing, you want to put your stuff in the external hard drive in a folder that's called footage, right? Or a master one. You'll have footage, you might then have a folder inside of that that's the sound effects and music. Now, some people, it really helps them to, in all your footage, to arrange it, even though you shot your film out of sequence, to make bins that have the film to be in the sequences that you need to do sequentially, and even then name them. Scene 1, take 1, scene 2, take 3, whatever. And as you're making your film, it helps if you had a script supervisor, that's wonderful, but on your script as the director, that you might go, I like take 3 of that particular shot. And so that way, ahead of time, you have your notes for the next day. Right? Now here's something really important to remember. You do not want to discount all that hard work you've done in your editing by putting in and using cheap, cheesy transitions. Now, with all respect to iMovie and other types of transitions that are really fun for covering the day at the beach or your kid's soccer game or that kind of thing, and those are really amusing and they're wonderful. But you don't want to use weird types of transitions in your film, even if it's a comedy, right? Direct cut and cutting on the action really helps. Sometimes a cross dissolve helps to go from one place to another. So you really want to use your transitions intelligently, and they should match the energy of what's happening in the scene, and think about how does the tempo from one sequence to another go about so that transition works. Even in a short film, sometimes if there needs to be a little bit of time passage, a fade to black, hold for a second, and then you come out of that black on the new shot. You can do that. Don't hold that black too much, okay? Music. There is a lot of resources for the music that you can use in your film and even have it distributed on YouTube or other platforms. So Creative Commons has a lot of free music and copyright-free music, old music, jazz, American music, classical music, abstract music, that kind of thing. It's great. There's another really great film library that we like to subscribe to here, and it's called Epidemic Sounds. And it's very affordable. And not only do they have a wide variety of music, you can put in the mood, the tempo, the beats per minute, that kind of thing. And they've got everything from rock and reggae and things like that. Plus, they give you all of the, you can either have the whole thing, or you can take the threads independently, and if you don't like the lyric, somebody singing in it, but you like the music, or you don't like the guitar or the other instrument in it, you can take that out as well. But Epidemic Sounds, good investment. There's my plug for them. Okay, the same is true for sound effects. Epidemic has sound effects, Creative Commons has sound effects. There's a lot of ways to record and make sound effects, even like weird ambient sound. So if you're making a horror film and there needs to be a creepy sound, or a science fiction film of some kind of ambient sound, you can get that as well. Okay? Credits. Really important when you put your credits in, as I've said before, proper spelling of the person's name and what their job is, and don't let that roll right through. And some people make their credits go so fast you can't read it. So if you're holding a single title, the name of the movie or the name of the director, about 3 seconds per single title works. And as it's scrolling through, can you read it aloud if you were not a native English speaker? That's a really good technique to use. Can you read it out loud and get a friend to look at it, and also have your friend read the credits as they scroll out loud. And if they can't get to it, it's too fast. Okay? So exporting, really important for this that you don't export your film in some huge thing like ProRes 422 or that kind of thing. In the editing systems we use on the Apple, it's H.264, and it will come out in .mov or MP4, right? And export, if you've exported or uploaded to YouTube, that's the format you want. You don't necessarily have to go down to 720. You can still stay in 1920, 1080, and you want to make sure that you're in P and not I. You want to be in progressive, not interlaced. Interlaced is how they use in Europe and other places. In the United States, P for progressive. Very important that you do your careful, even though if you're panicking, if you're going to the last minute, that's why you don't rush to the last minute, that you look at your export intelligently, and it's the same frame rate as you shot it in, and all of that, okay? Then you look at your export. Oh, here's the other thing. You got to make sure that your decibels, when you're mixing your sound, are not peaking. So you want to stay somewhere around, I think, -8, right, for some scenes, -6 for quiet dialogue. You don't want it to peak to 0 unless there's a gunshot or a scream or something, but for the majority of your time, about -8 for your decibels, right? And then look at your export a couple of times to make sure before you submit it. Now here's the thing. The overall thing about the 48-hour film challenge: have fun, be collaborative, take risks, and enjoy making the film. And please, be safe not only in your filmmaking, but please be safe with this COVID. I'm looking forward to seeing your films, and hopefully, at some point, I'd like to meet you in person. So thanks a lot for spending time with me, and I'm really excited about the BCM 48-Hour Film Challenge COVID edition, and I hope you will be too.